saith the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. In Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler, and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler.
A soft place to fall. Yeah, a soft place to fall.
You are a royal priesthood, set apart, fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. That's our Feel God Song of the Day, done for us by Pastor Charles Chenier, who happens to be our guest today. It's available on all platforms, or wherever you purchase your music. I encourage you to make it a part of your collection. Have you ever been in a crowded room and felt all alone and probably knew everyone in the room? Have you looked at your family circle and said, am I really a part of this clan? Not that you felt superior or inferior, you just didn't feel like you fit in. Well, that's the story of our guest today, and how those challenges became a bit much for him to handle. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more right here on A Soft Place to Fall. But for now, here's how I'm feeling. Servants, do what you're told by your earthly masters. And don't just do the minimum that will get you by. Do your best. Work from your heart for your real master, for God. Confident that you'll get paid in full when you come into your inheritance. Keep in mind always that the ultimate master you're serving is Christ. The sullen servant who does shoddy work will be held responsible. Being a follower of Jesus doesn't cover up bad work.
A soft place to fall.
Life has a way of throwing you curveball after curveball, and a lot of times we miss and we think we struck out. But that really isn't always the case. If we step back and look at this journey called life, it has a tendency to prove to be even better than we thought it was. Let me share something with you. Have you ever been in a crowd and felt all alone? And probably knew just about everyone in the room. Or have you ever been to a family reunion or a family gathering and looked at the group and said, am I really a part of this clan? Not that you felt inferior or superior to the group, it's just that you felt apart from them, set apart. Welcome to another edition of A Soft Place to Fall. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more of what comes from those repercussions of feeling out of place at times. Our guest today is very familiar with it, and we welcome him once again to Soft Place to Fall, Pastor Charles Chenier.
How you doing?
He always cringes when I call him Pastor, but that's what I call you. I call you Pastor. And of course, you know, my first question to all my guests is, how did you get here? Here.
Here?
Yeah, here. How did you get here?
You called me and you told me that I better be here.
Okay, you got that correct. You got that one correct. But at any rate, I've known you for quite some time, and we've talked about a lot of things that life has done. I mean, you're a musician, you're a pastor, you're a family man, you're a father, and all of those wonderful things. But you share with me some challenges and things that Suicidal had gone through. And so without, diving into your personal life, what is it that you want to share with our viewers about that whole part of feeling alone or out of place and everything?
Well, basically, my whole life, I've always been the guy who, I was cool with everybody. a lot of people know who I am, but yet a lot of people don't know who I am, if that makes sense. Meaning, I've always been able to, I like to call myself a chameleon. Meaning I was always able to adapt to any kind of surrounding, any kind of crowd of people. But my whole life, I just never really felt like I belonged in a place. Never really felt like I was a part of anything, even in my own home, even in the church. Just never felt like I belonged here.
And it's interesting that you should say that, because I know as I kind of reflect on a whole lot of things that I've gone through in life, being in the public eye, and like you say, everybody knows you, but they really don't know you.
Right.
So there was some moments of feeling a little bit less than you considered some of your peers to be, or perhaps not. But you found some interesting opportunities to escape and find a cushion to fall back on when feeling like that. So tell me a little bit about some of those things that you discovered as your soft place to fall. It probably wasn't labeled as such,
Right.
but that's what it ended up being.
Well, basically, my whole life, music was always like my outlet. Like people who've known me, like back in the Gap, like they always known me as this guy who had a passion and a love for music. But then somewhere along the line, that passion got clouded with all of the, I guess, chaos of life and things of that nature. So I lost that passion for music. And so during that time is when I discovered the fact that I was suffering with depression and anxiety and things of that nature. That's also when I discovered the fact that my whole life I really never felt like I belonged anywhere. And so I got to a place where I kind of like just gave up on everything. I gave up on music. I gave up on myself. I kind of lost who I was in the process. And I also just kind of disappeared,
Right.
And, so like a lot of times when I come across people who I've known, like everybody's like, man, where you been? I thought, it's almost like you just disappeared.
Disappeared or moved out of
Right.
relocated. Yeah.
Right. So basically during quarantine is when I was forced to get back to my passion again. And that's when I would find myself writing and writing and writing. And also getting on the keyboard and producing again. And so that's when, of course, people like you and the late JK, y'all wouldn't allow me to give up on my, my gift. And so I found that soft place to fall in music again.
Yeah. And at that point, giving up was not an option. But you said something, and it probably went over a lot of people's heads. But it was one word that you said in that I definitely want to talk more about. You mentioned the word depression, and you recognized that you were depressed. And I said that in conversation when it kind of just went past. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. They're depressed and they don't even realize it.
Right.
But depression can be very, very detrimental.
Yes, it can be.
So, having recognized the fact that you were depressed, what did you do? How did you pull yourself out of it?
Man, in the fact of like recognizing that I was depressed, depression is one of those, trying to pull yourself out of depression is an extremely difficult thing to do sometimes. It's kind of like a scab or something, like when you fall and you hurt yourself, but then it's like, it may hurt when you fall, but it's during that healing process sometimes when that scab, it can become like very aggravating or agitating sometimes. And it's kind of like when you're trying to pull yourself out of depression sometimes, sometimes the pain is worse. The pain from trying to heal from it hurts worse than the actual trauma that caused the pain itself. But it's a thing that, for me, it's like pulling yourself out of depression is a continual fight. Like your mind have to really be made up that I want to come out of this. One of the things I've discovered, like in my time of pastoring, is that you have some people who really want to be free from the things that keep them bound, but then you have a group of people who really don't want to be free because they kind of find comfort in that pain, or they find comfort in that attention that they're getting from the pain. Well, I just so happen to be the type of person who, like, I really wanted to be free from it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And because of the fact that I really want to be free, I had to like continuously fight. And honestly, I'm still fighting. You know, to bring myself out of it.
It's a journey, and a lot of times what people don't want to make mention of, it's always good if you can find somebody to talk to.
Right.
You know, even to the point of it being somebody on a professional level.
Right.
You know, but we as a people, we don't want to talk about that. No, that doesn't happen. Not to us. So, in saying that, you know, because that brings to mind, you know, one of the things that is so out of control right now is the suicide rate.
Right.
I was looking at some numbers just a few days ago, and especially amongst African American young men, it's horrifying the number of people who are dealing with depression and mental things are going on, and they think that the only way out of this thing is to take their lives.
Right.
And it's horrifying. And in conversation, I've been surprised at some of the people that I've talked to that have actually contemplated it. I look at them and go, what? You know, so finding that soft place to fall is very important. Very important.
And it's actually funny that you mentioned suicidal depression. A lot of people have no idea, but I tried to take my life 3 times in my life. The first time, I was a kid, maybe like 5 or 6 years old. My mom had a gun, and I went and got her gun, and I tried to take my life, but I didn't know nothing about the safety. The second time, I knew about the safety, but apparently the bullet got stuck in the chamber. The third time, I was a full-blown adult, married with children, and I went to Sam's and bought a real big bottle of the Tylenol extra strength, swallowed the whole entire bottle. The only thing happened was I threw up. After I threw up, I was perfectly fine. But it was at that moment when, like, I heard a voice, like, literally, and it's not me trying to be super spiritual, but I literally heard a voice tell me that it wasn't my time to go, and that God had a plan for my life. And it was at that moment when I got delivered from the suicidal depression. So, with that being said, suicidal depression is real. The thing is, what a lot of people don't realize or understand is that those who commit suicide, they cry out for help before they commit the suicide. It's just the fact that nobody really listens to it.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that, and then we're going to talk more importantly about some of the great things that you have found and you're creating. I'm really excited about that. So we're going to talk more with Pastor Charles Chenier when we return to Soft Place to Fall. Are you covered, protected, and prepared? Don't you want to ease your mind by having the confidence that when the time comes, you and your loved ones are protected and insured? It's as easy as picking up the phone and calling licensed life agent Enidra Wells, 225-936-6017. With care and compassion, Enidra will walk you through the entire process of having you and your loved ones covered, protected, and prepared. No exams. Most pre-existing diagnoses are covered. No special requirements. So call today, 225-936-6017, and have the assurance of insurance.
A soft place to fall.
And we're back here at a Soft Place to Fall, talking with my good friend, brother in Christ, Pastor Charles Chenier. And before break, we were talking about depression and suicidal depression, and how by the grace of God you were able to pull yourself out of that. And we kind of flip the script and have you mention to our viewers the difficulty of first recognizing it, and then what do you do? What's the next step? You know, and I know just like any other thing, recognizing and admitting it is the first step to any transformation coming out of anything.
So yeah, once I recognized the fact that I was dealing with depression, the next step was to get help. I mean, of course, like growing up as a black kid, or a black male, I should say, we were always taught and trained we're not supposed to have feelings, we're not supposed to have emotions, we're supposed to basically just be robots, you know. And then not even just a black man, but even growing up in a black church, you know, it's like if you're going through something, then you must be doing something wrong, or, you know. And so, I mean, like I always tell people, I'm a real man with real problems who's looking for a real solution. And so I got help. You know, I started doing some research on trying to find a great therapist. Even that process was rough. And somebody told me, they said, don't give up, you know, because they said when you find a good therapist, it's going to be worth it. And that's what I've done until I found one.
And it's bad to say, but you say the word therapist, and most people go, oh my God, they cringe, or it's a bad word or something. But professional help is key in a lot of things that we're going through, and we really don't recognize and don't want to acknowledge it.
Right.
But let's start talking about the therapeutic music that you create, and I know that you've got some things in studio that you're working on. We actually opened this episode with one of your songs, and all of your songs have such a deep and powerful message, and I know for a fact that some of the greatest songs may come out of the worst pain. So take, for instance, I'm not going to try to find out what the new song is. I know you told me that you're working on some stuff. But let's talk about some of the other songs that you are most proud of, and how they helped you in very difficult times.
Well, one of the songs that kind of started it all was Set Apart. And basically Set Apart, it stemmed from that place of, you know, not feeling like I'm a part, you know. So yeah, that would be the one that kind of started the whole journey, I should say.
I always like to find out from artists. We were talking to a poet a couple of episodes ago. Whenever you're feeling a little bit disconnected or depressed, or do you ever find yourself just going in and singing one of your songs to yourself?
Actually, yeah, I have. As a matter of fact, I found myself doing it just this week. So, yeah.
So are we ever going to talk about the new projects that are on the horizon, or do I have to wait?
No, we could talk about it.
Okay.
Of course, I'm currently in the studio working on a project. I haven't quite decided the name of the project yet. But just know that it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot. And it's basically just a lot of encouraging songs, just talking to people who are going through different scenarios, you know, different trials and tribulations in life. My whole thing is, the reason I try to encourage others is because in the process I'm encouraging myself. But I feel that if it's encouraging me, then why not help somebody else in the process?
Right.
And so the music that I'm working on, it's a lot of encouraging songs to help encourage other people, encouraging you to just keep going, keep pushing, keep pressing, you know, and things of that nature. So.
Yeah, because I've been talking with a lot of guests and a lot of potential guests, and in an effort to, and most of them don't label it a soft place to fall, but what has initially happened is you created this soft place to fall, but yet providing a soft place to fall for others.
Right.
So that's exactly what your music is doing. It's throwing a cushion to them. Okay, you're going through some things that may seem a little bit difficult. Here, fall on this. So, in transition, and I'm probably, and if I get a little bit too deep, let me know.
Okay.
Because all these things are always based on conversation. But in transition, I know that you have always been a great family man, and we talked about in the opening how we and myself, indeed, have been in a family circle, and you kind of look around and go, am I really a part of this? Because I know that there are others that are facing some of those same emotional impacts. What brings you to that point where you have to kind of look back and say, okay, is this really who I'm a part of?
Right. I'm a very transparent guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very transparent preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say I'm too transparent, but the way I look at it is, if I can share my life stories and be real, then it'll help reach and touch somebody else. So I've had 2 failed marriages. Of course, when people look at the fact that you have 2 failed marriages, they look at you as, oh, what's wrong with him? And it's not pointing the finger at them neither. But just being honest, even in both of those marriages, once again, I feel like I didn't belong. It was like, what am I doing here? I feel like I was just existing. My whole life, because my parents wasn't really like as active in my life. My father wasn't active at all. As a kid, I told myself that I was going to be the opposite. Instead of using that as an excuse to become another deadbeat dad, I wanted to be the opposite. I wanted to give my kids what I didn't have. So, it was a struggle, trying to fight, trying to be a great dad. And sometimes as a dad, we get overlooked a lot. We get overlooked for the sacrifices that we make for our kids. We get overlooked because what people don't realize is that when everything goes wrong, everybody's looking at dad.
Mm-hmm.
But we the one who get the least recognition for it, And so sometimes as a dad, that can be overbearing, because it's like you're trying your best to be this great representation to your kids. And in my case, I have 4 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, things that I do with my daughters, I take them out on dates, like real dates, where we get dressed up and we go out to eat at a nice restaurant, just trying to show them what a real man should be and how they should be treated. But sometimes you feel like it kind of gets overlooked sometimes, And so sometimes that can kind of cause you to fall back sometimes as well, But honestly, like recently, one of my daughters in school, she had to write a paper on somebody who she inspires her. And she called me, she told me.
I can imagine.
We're
going to talk about that.
Okay.
when we come back. Yeah, because I can see where that is going. But that's a good thing, because Anidra, who's our director, she and I had talked about some of the same things as far as, fathers getting the recognition that they do. We're going to talk more about that when we return here at A Soft Place to Fall.
A soft place to fall.
We were talking about the wonderful roles, that's what I'm going to call it, that fathers play that a lot of times get overlooked. And it kind of reminded me of, I think it was a comedian or someone that was talking about the difference in Mother's Day and Father's Day.
Right.
On Mother's Day, they go out to brunch, they have all these wonderful gifts, they give them flowers and all the great things. And Father's Day roll around, and Father's out there barbecuing for themselves and for the family, and they might get a tie or a pair of socks or something of that nature. So the role of a father, and particularly a black father, a lot of times good, because I don't care what anybody says, there are some good men of color who are doing what they need to do, holding down their families and doing the very best that they can. So, do your daughters like your music?
They love it.
They
As a
love
matter
your
of
music,
fact.
okay? Because you said you were about to say that one of your daughters was writing a paper. Okay, let's go there.
Okay. So yeah, my daughter had to write a paper in school. And the paper had to be on who inspired her. And she called me to tell me that she chose me. I was like, me? She was like, yeah. And so she asked me, did I want to read it before she had to turn it in? I said, yeah, I want to read it. So the day before she had to turn the paper in, she brought it to the house and she let me read the paper. And immediately, I broke out in tears. Because a lot of the things that I always thought my kids overlooked, or the things that I thought that they wasn't paying attention to, with a lot of the sacrifices that I've made, was written in that paper. And so it gave me comfort that knowing that, you know, even a lot of the sacrifices and the sufferings that I had to go through, or that I'm still going through, trying to be a good role model for them, is not in vain. You know, I always say that everybody talks about the love of a mother, but you never hear anybody talk about the sacrifice of a father.
It sounds like the whole report that she wrote about you should be set to music. Oh, see? The plot thickens. So that gives you something to work with. So, what would you say to anyone out there that is dealing with these emotional roller coasters that a lot of times we find? Let's talk to the black man that we find ourselves on, and what should they do to kind of find that soft place to fall? Because a lot of times we have to get away. We got to break away from all the madness, all the commotion, all the things that are so very demanding in our lives.
Right.
So what do you say to them?
I would basically tell them that, first of all, it's okay to have emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to feel. I would say, first of all, get help. It's okay. You know, as a black man, we take pride in our cars, our homes. You know, when things of that nature goes wrong, like, we're quick to try to, like, find a solution to fix it. You know, except for when it comes to our health or, you know, our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I would say get some professional help for one. Two, like, get to finding, like, who you are, the things that you like to do. Sometimes as a black man, or father especially, we get so caught up in making sure everybody else is fine and making sure everybody else have what they need till we neglect ourselves. It's okay to find what you like to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you find what you like to do it sometimes. It's okay to treat yourself sometimes. You know, like, as you say, find that soft place for you to fall sometimes.
Yeah, life can be very challenging at times, and sometimes we feel like we're on this emotional roller coaster. And it wasn't until perhaps, well, for myself, the pandemic, and we would be remiss if we did not even talk about that. And you mentioned earlier in the conversation that you got a chance to kind of find yourself and come back to yourself. But overall, how did that whole, like I tell everybody, it was for me. I've just made 61 years, and it had to be the most trying time in life. So how did that really affect the household and the people around you? How did that whole COVID pandemic craziness affect you?
For me, it affected me in a great way. Because of the fact that, like I said, it allowed me to get back to my soft place to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And then honestly, like, God kind of dealt with me in dreams and visions anyway. So I kind of already saw it coming before it came. So it's like when it came, I was kind of already mentally prepared for it. But as far as like my family and things of that nature, it affected us in a pretty great way.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that, you know, we did lose a lot of loved ones and family members and things of that nature. So it's definitely taken a toll.
Yeah. But thank God we can kind of see our way clearly out of this whole thing. And one of the things that during that whole pandemic thing and while it was going on, is people kept talking about, I can't wait till we get back to normal.
Right.
Which was ridiculous to me,
Yeah.
because obviously our normal was very abnormal. We
Right.
weren't doing things right, and God was trying to get our attention.
Right.
And I think that's one of the greatest things that came out of that whole ordeal, and we're still going through. You know, the Bible clearly tells me, if my people will call by my name, humble yourselves, pray, turn from your wicked ways, I'll heal the land.
Right.
You know, so the land is in need of healing.
Yeah.
So let's do what it says do. Out of all the conversations we've had down through the years, and there have been quite a few,
Right.
this one has been the most enlightening and wonderful experience. So I, of course, want to thank you for joining me here for Conversations on the Couch. But we talked about your music that's already out, and we talked about music that is to come. So I know there's some people out there who want to know how they can get some of this music and let it minister to them. So please tell everyone how to get in contact with you, how to follow you, and all of that for you.
Well, you can follow me on Facebook at Charles Chenier. Chenier is spelled Chenier. You can find me on Instagram at Chenier2 is me, and at Chenier the number 2 is IZ and then me. You can also find me on YouTube, Google Play Music, iTunes. Just type in Charles Chenier.
Well, once again, I want to thank you for joining me here at A Soft Place to Fall. We'll do this again. Cameras may not be rolling, but I know that we'll have another opportunity to sit and talk. And once again, if there's ever anything that I can do, don't hesitate to call. We've been talking with Pastor Charles Chenier right here on A Soft Place to Fall. I'll be back to wrap things up.
A soft place to fall.
Well, we've come to one of my most favorite segments in A Soft Place to Fall. It's a chance for me to tattle on someone. You know how it was when you were a kid and you did something you had no business doing, and your siblings would always say, well, I'm going to tell on you. Same thing. But I'm telling God of the good things that good people are doing. About 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting in my office and I have a large window that faces Government Street. And I happened to turn around and I saw something that kind of surprised me. I saw a young man standing out there in a chef's outfit preparing food and had a big sign that said free meals. This went on for about 2 weeks, and finally I got up enough nerve to go out and see what was really going on. And he explained to me that he worked at a restaurant and he saw all of the food that they were getting rid of and going to waste. And he said, I need to do something about this. So he packed up his vehicle, prepared these meals, drove to one of the areas in town where the homeless normally hang out. And he stood out there and he served these people with such a compassion and such love. So for that, Mr. Baptiste, I'm going to tell God on you. And the reason I tell God on good people doing good things is because I want God to bless them over and over again. So if you have someone you want me to tattle on, you can send me that information at asoftplacetofall@yahoo.com, and I'll tell God on them for you.
A soft place to fall.
We talked a lot about a lot of things in this episode of A Soft Place to Fall. We talked about things that normally don't get a whole lot of attention. We talked about depression and suicide and all of the things that we deal with on a daily basis. But it's a matter of finding that soft place to fall. We want to thank Pastor Charles Chenier for coming and sharing with us and being, as he said, so transparent. What an awesome opportunity to dive into the things of God. Remember, we're always here for you. Don't worry about it, people of God. The sufferings of this present age cannot be compared to the glory that shall be revealed in Christ Jesus. Don't worry about what it looks like, sounds like, feels like, or even smells like. Press your way through. I promise you there's a great reward for you. It doesn't matter how many mountains you successfully climb, how many goals you successfully achieve, how many initials you have earned at the back of your name, or put there for your convenience. Only what you do for Christ will last. Find your soft place to fall.
A soft place to fall.